Let us explore a very powerful technique for finding inverse just using words. I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. In this video, we will find inverse of a function using just words, not algebraically. So the question here is, write inverse of f of x equals to 3 square root of x plus 2 minus 1 using words. What range of values of x can be used for this inverse? And take a value of x to justify your answer. So these are the parts of this particular question. I'd like you to pause the video, answer the question, and then look into my suggestions. We are given the function which is f of x equals to 3 times square root of x plus 2 minus 1. We need to find inverse of this function, correct? And that too using words. How will you do it? So let's try to understand the operations being performed, and then we are going to do reverse operations. Make sense? That is how we are going to find the inverse. But before getting there, it's a good idea to check the domain and range, since for inverse, domain and range will also flip, right? So check domain and range. So for the given function, as you can see, the domain is that x plus 2 should be greater than or equal to 0. That means x is greater than or equal to minus 2. So we have the domain of this particular function as x belongs to real numbers, where x is greater than or equal to minus 2. Clear? Range is the y values, which will be what for this? Y also belongs to real numbers, and you see this has been shifted 1 unit down, right? So that means y is greater than or equal to minus 1. That is the domain and range. Now, for inverse function, the domain and range will flip. So keep that in mind while answering the question, right? So if you are looking into the inverse function, in that case, what happens? The range becomes the domain, right? So the domain will be x is greater than or equal to minus 1, and the range will be y is greater than or equal to minus 2. Is that clear to you? So that is for inverse function. Keep this in mind, and you have to put that as a restriction. Also in the question, we are saying what range of values of x can be used for the inverse. So we've in a way answered this particular question, which is what range of values of x can be used for inverse. So the range of values are y greater than or equal to minus 2. Is it clear? Then we have to take a value of x to justify our answer that we could take within our domain and range. Perfect. So I think now you have a good idea of what the question is. So take an attempt on this, and then we'll see how to solve it. Here is my suggestion. So as I was saying, the function itself is given to us as equal to 3 times x plus 2 square root minus 1. So what are the operations being performed? That is what we have to look into, right? So if I feed in x, then first thing is to x we add 2, right? And then what do? We square root. Let me write like this. And then what do? We times it with 3, right? So we do times 3. Let's write it. And then we take away 1. So these are the operations in order which are performed. And therefore, we can now say what is the inverse of this function. So in words, we have to go in this particular direction, which says -1, what is the inverse, reverse of this, you can say, right? So reverse operation. You add 1, right? So we'd say add 1, right? And then what do you see? Instead of multiply, then the next operation is divide by 3. And then square. And then instead of adding, we subtract 2. Makes sense? So now, now we have the inverse of this particular function, which can be written as x plus 1, right? Divide by 3 square, and then you subtract 2. Do you see that in algebraic form? In words, you write as add 1, divide by 3, square, and subtract 2. Now here it is very important to also include what should be the domain, right? So clearly, when we did this part, we saw that the range is greater than equal to -1. So here x will be greater than equal to -1. This is extremely important to include. Otherwise, you are going to write the whole parabola, which is going to be a wrong answer. Let's visualize the scenario. As far as the square root function is concerned, it has moved 2 units to the left and 1 unit down, right? So it can be sketched as 2 left and 1 down, so something like this, right? So I'm mainly concerned with this particular point, which is -2, -1. Now when you do the inverse of this, then this point is going to flip, right? So when it flips, then the image will be -1, -2, right? So at -1 we have -2, that will be the reflection. And therefore, that will go like this. This is the parabola, where this point here is -1, -2. You get the idea. So that's your inverse function. You can clearly see that the domain is on the right side of -1, as we have pointed out. And range is greater than -2. Is that clear to you? So that is how we need to visualize this. Perfect. Now let's answer the question number 2, which is what range of the values of x can be used for the inverse? So the range of the values are greater than -2, right? So this point here. So part B, let's do it on a fresh page. So when we say what range of the values can inverse have, we know that the function for us is 3 square root of x plus 2 minus 1, and the inverse of this function is we added 1 to it, and then we divided by 3, then we squared it, correct, and minus 2. Now for this particular function, we are taking only one side of this particular parabola. So we are saying x is greater than equal to -1. So that was the first part which we just did. Now, what range of the values of x can be used for the inverse? So for inverse, we know the domain is this. We can now write the range also. Range will be the vertex is at -2, right? So the y value is greater than equal to -2. Is that clear to you? So that becomes the answer for the second part which is y is greater than or equal to minus 2. Now it says take a value of x to justify your answer, right? So that is to say, if I take a value of x here, let's take a value which is valid, then because this is a square root function, it will be a good idea to take x as, for example, 2. So if I use x equals to 2, then what is f of 2? F of 2 will be 3 times square root of 2 plus 2 minus 1, which is 3 times 2 plus 2 is 4, square root is 2, minus 1, which is 6 minus 1 as 5. So we have the coordinate point 2, 5, correct? Now in the inverse function, if I put 5, I should get 2 as my output, right? So let's find what is inverse of 5. So if I put 5 here, I get 5 plus 1 over 3 whole square minus 2, right? 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 over 3 whole square minus 2, which is 2 square minus 2, right? So 2 square is 4, 4 minus 2 gives me 2. Do you see that? So we have shown a very important result, that if the input is 2, the output is 5, and when we feed in 5, we get 2, correct? So let me rewrite this. So what we have shown just now is that with the help of an example, if I feed in 2 to our function f of x, then what we get here is 5, right? On the other hand, if I reverse this operation, that is to f inverse x, right? That is the inverse. What do you get back? 2. So that is how we verified that the result is correct. So there is an important relation here, which is f of f inverse x is always equal to x, is always x, and that is how you verify. Is that clear to you? So I hope the whole concept is absolutely clear. If you have any doubts, you can always send an email or write comments on this particular video. Feel free to write your comments and share your views. Well, in case you want to learn from me, then you can also send an email on this address. Thanks for your time and all the best.